here.
So, yeah.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Viewpoint. We apologize for the technical difficulty there, but we are back. And we want to talk about the Serere by-election, a by-election that has had a lot of ups and downs, by-election that arose from a tragedy, an accident, and a by-election that has added one more name to the parliament scroll, and that is the name of Emmanuel Omoding, the son of the late MP. Joining me today to discuss this and more is Derek Wandera, a senior journalist with the Daily Monitor. Good morning, Derek. You're welcome.
Good morning, Tan. Thank you for having me again.
And to my right is Sabiti Joseph, who comes from Zombo, and he makes that very clear often since I've known him. And he's also the principal press secretary to the Speaker of the Parliament of Uganda. Good morning, Joseph. You're welcome.
There's no place like Zombo, so it's very important to know that.
And then the next one is a mainstay. You've seen him here always. He's Isaac Kayonde. He's an NRM mobilizer, but also former candidate for Gomba West for Parliament of Uganda. Good morning, Isaac. You're welcome.
Good morning, listeners, and it's a pleasure to be here. I hope our discussions go well.
I think for the first time on the history of this show, I'm going to start with Isaac because he's always on the receiving end. But this time he has to tell us how his political party, which is the largest political party in Uganda by numbers, which has won, as you know, many elections, how this political party lost the by-election in Serere after the president came, after the minister, the entire party machinery was in Zombo. Actually, one of the guests we were meant to have here was Emmanuel Dombo, and he told me when we talked to him about coming to the show, he said by then I will be very tired because I'll be coming from Zombo. You know, we've been campaigning from Serere. So he said said I'll be coming from Serere very tired, and he was expecting a win, but things just didn't turn out. So what happened?
Yeah, thank you very much, Daniel. Well, I followed this Serere election a bit late, but as NRM, you asked how we lost, but I feel like NRM won on two fronts in Serere. The first was that the candidate who won is by no means an opposition-leaning person. He's NRM-leaning. It was our internal weaknesses that brought him onto the scene. So you cannot say he's not NRM. He has confessed that he's NRM. So in that regard, we won. We still won. The second win for NRM was in principle. I was very glad that NRM won in principle, that they did not go, even after all the research they did, they knew Okebe's son was popular, but the rule of holding the flag for 5 years stood. That you have a candidate who goes through the NRM primaries, becomes the flag bearer for 5 years. The fact that they did not go against that rule, for me, showed that they told the rule book, So I feel like in principle and in candidate, they won. But the other thing about this election, it also showed me that the opposition, the big man in Bobby Wine,
Yes.
his power and influence is steadily decreasing. For him to have gone to Serere and his candidate polls those numbers was something that I didn't expect. After all the fanfare and the support that they showed, it was really a dismal performance. And I think going forward, you're going to see a lot of these disappointments on the opposition side. So it's an indication of where the population is in the East, who they support generally, and also the individual politics is also starting to rear its head, and where people vote individuals and not necessarily the party ideas and party
Are
colors.
you going back to movement politics? If we are using individuals and no longer political parties, then what was that referendum about? Why did we even create the political parties in the
The
first
question
place?
is, did it ever go? I mean, FDC without Besigye, you saw what happened. Bobby Wine, Noop without Bobby Wine, I can assure you, Lubongoya is not winning any election soon. NRM without Museveni, we know our guy.
Yes.
So it's there, and it's alive and well. For as long as we have literacy levels this low, or those other things that hold multi-party politics to thrive, we are going to remain in this movement thing. Thank you.
Joseph, it seems like from the outside looking in, because I was not in Serere, I was only following updates from reporters. There was a time when we covered Chagulanyi going around the country winning by-elections, and that was before he actually stood for president, and he won, I think, 3 by-elections in a row, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember the numbers very well, but he won so many by-elections, and that culminated in Arua, the Arua by-election, which he also won again, and that created the entire Arua saga, the arrest, the prosecution, the shooting of his driver, and so on and so forth. The question I think I'm asking is, has the wave finally subsided? Has the wave ended of the Bobby Wineism?
Dan, I think that even going back to the by-elections you're talking about, you must understand, my friend, the Honorable Chagulanyi orchestrated what they call political cleverness. Let me give you a bit of context. Very few people know, for example, that the Honorable Chagulanyi's candidate in Arua was not Kassiano Wadri.
Who was it? Because he was
a gentleman called Robert Ejiku. Until, and I can now say this, that he called me and told me I am going to Arua. So I told him, who are you going to support? He said Ejiku, and I told him, you'll be humiliated. You'll be humiliated and humiliated badly. So we had a conversation, and I explained to him why Kassiano Wadri was going to win that election. Now, I have told people 100 times that Kassiano Wadri did not win that election because of Bobby Wine. Kassiano Wadri won that election because he was a political big boy in the region. The political big boys of the West Nile are fading fast. Most of them have collapsed. Kassiano was the last man standing. I told him, and he asked me this question and said, look, what will I tell the young people if I go and support the Honorable Kassiano Wadri? Because we are saying this is a youth-led revolution. And I said, if I were you, I would say this is a youth-led process, but we need a few elders to guide us in the process. And before he set off to Arua, he called me. I remember I was still in the newsroom, and said, we are going in for Kassiano. And I told him, you're now safe. So you can't associate.
So you're trying to say the wave was never there?
No. The wave is there. The wave is strong. And here is how. I don't think the two of them were even talking. I was doing an assignment in Arua. So moving on the streets, I meet Kassiano, and he tells me. So I asked him, how are things going? How are campaigns? He said, man, things are fine, but these young people are insisting they want to party with Bobby Wine. So I need, so in analysis of that, of the Arua, you need to give everybody their credit. The young people resonated with Bobby Wine.
Yes.
They wanted him there. But Cassiano had established them. So it was a combination of both factors. Let's go to Bujiri, which is again associated.
Yes.
Right? Derek and I were
Basalirwa.
on the ground in Bujiri. I can tell you that there was no way Hasman Basalirwa was going to lose that election.
With or without Bobby Wine?
With or without Bobby Wine. Hasman Basalirwa was the man to beat. A section of the NRM machinery was backing him. Haji Liavala, who had been the chairman of Bujiri, was campaigning for Bobby Wine. He had a strong command, for Hasman Basalirwa, and he had a strong command of the Muslim community. Very, very solid. So that's why you hear the term Haji Alagide and what. So Hasman had been a candidate about 4 times.
Yes, and lost.
Now, so it's again, it's not solidly the Bobby Wine magic that Bobby Wine will stand and say there shall be Lutaya, and then Lutaya comes. But the real Bobby Wine effect was in the general elections in the central region. Now that is where the solid wave, I think, existed in Buganda, because previously you'd see the opposition winning the urban, winning Kampala, winning, but you see that this time he went to Sembabule and picked a member of parliament. He went to Gomba and picked a member of parliament. He went to, deep down the Greater Masaka and basically did, surgical. Now, for me, if I want to give credit to that wave, I'll do that. Outside, also in Jinja.
Yes.
I think that they picked an MP because of the wave. I can tell you, my friend John Baptist Nambeshe would have won that election on Potatoes Party, on Tea Party, on Sugar Party, on any political affiliation. It was solely individual merit. I have actually told him that you did not need the NUP. The NUP needed you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's go down to Serere. Was there a Bobby Wine factor in Serere historically? No. Did we measure? Did we try to measure his strength in Teso sub-region? Have we subjected it to a proper political analysis? No. Serere was historically an FDC stronghold.
Yes.
The person who I would have wanted to go there and I determine whether he's still solid or finished was retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besigye. Because the reform agenda wave, the FDC wave, was orchestrated by Besigye, backed by the FDC bigwigs in the region, the Ali Salassos, the chairman of Serere now, I think is called Stephen, someone, I forget the second name, but there were those FDC solid boys and girls in Teso who worked with Colonel Besigye to take the FDC there. That's why Ali Salasso took Serere for 3 consecutive terms without any interference. So
now she was not even in the top 3, she did very badly in this election.
Because times change. Times change. We had a very emotional election. Somebody has lost both their parents in a tragic accident, and they are a candidate, right? And this person also has a section of the NRM machinery actually sympathetic to him because of either loyalty to their father or the circumstances the family finds itself in. It is very difficult to ride against to go against a bereaved family.
Yes.
In the African context, in my culture, you're considered a witch. so it was suicide. That's why you didn't see a lot of the big wigs from Teso actually going in to back the NRM flag bearer. I think I want to give it up to Philip. He fought like a man.
Philip Ochoa.
Ochoa, yes. In all these contradictions in the party, he still managed to gather 11,000 votes. For me, that is something quite commendable. But did the NRM lose Serere? Absolutely not. Omoding will be in the NRM caucus meetings. Omoding will be saying General Yoweri Oye. Omoding will be saying NRM Oye and will be flashing the thumbs up in the next. And in the next NRM primaries, Omoding will be a candidate. So the losers, the opposition, they got 3,000 votes. The other one
after uniting.
Which one is the unity? I
think the ANT and NUP and ANT.
You're a political analyst.
Yes.
Unity is not about going to Kamocha and saying we are supporting Alaso. Then you go back to sleep. Then you show up on one day. Then you stand on top of the cars and shout Alaso and return to Kampala. No. We have seen pragmatic unity. When the joint opposition candidate was Paul Miru in Jinja, you saw all boots were on the ground for a week. Guys camped there and campaigned together. So which NUP leader was in Serere for more than 2.5 days? Maybe I missed because I left the newsroom these days. So the unity was
we
more,
have someone who is still in the
Yeah.
newsroom, so he can explain
Yeah.
to us what he saw. Derek, it seems that the opposition's power, the leading opposition party, NUP, at least the leading opposition party should have been number 2 in an election. To live up to that tag of we are number 2 to NRM, they should have had the number 2 spot. But leading opposition party plus ANT with a historical General Muntu failing to even get into the top 3. What does this say about where opposition politics is headed in this country, in an eastern Uganda which has been their stronghold for 15 years now?
It's quite challenging times for the opposition right now. When you see the ANT, which moved from FDC, and then of course the NUP, which is the leading opposition right now, not in one house, not in the same house. Going into that election, of course, you know the jabs that were thrown from Najanal Umbi and those that came from ANT at that's Nakasero Road and in Kamoncha. There have been those jabs of should we come into one roof and have one candidate, and you know that FDC came out to say that we have unresolved, undying and unwavering issues with the ANT, and we can never just come together. And I remember one day when I was attending the Twitter Spaces, one of the questions that I threw to General Muntu, asking him, then when do you plan as opposition or ANT and FDC, when do you plan to solve those unresolved issues? And I think going into that election, that should have been even a red flag for them to know that going into an election like that, where it's so much tilted onto the side of movement or of NRM, which has 3 candidates in that election, of course running on different platforms, would have given them even an eye-opener to think that how do we then strategize. They went into this, in fact the whole opposition went into this campaign or this election as underdogs, because you have an ANT which has favorably the best candidate in the region in that election, but he is having squabbles with first the electorate. The electorate are asking so many hard questions, asking questions of, you have to come and explain to us why you left FDC. Now, when you look at Serere and the region of Teso, it goes without say that until now, when NRM is pulling their head up or has pulled their head up, FDC has always been the big lion there, speaking all kinds of language and putting up commendable performances in all elections. And if they come asking a question to the opposition, why did you leave the FDC without consulting from us? Because every candidate in an election is made and put on the table by the electorate. So if the electorate are asking you such hard questions, then you are endangered species. So ANT comes into this election with that very big scar, and without or with the magic bullet of Bobby Wine, who we know that
is it still a magic bullet? That's
absolutely.
That's what Isaac wants to ask you that, so I've asked for him.
I'm going to come to that. With or without the magic bullet of Bobby Wine into such an election, the people of Serere are not sleeping. The people of Serere, the electorates of Serere, are alive to the fact that there is a division within the opposition. The big crack between ANT and FDC is very visible. That you're going to have an ANT candidate who, if he only had the backing of FDC, and of course, like Joseph said, the backing of Dr. Kano Kiza Besigye, would probably have put up better numbers. But then you have that, and you have an FDC candidate who is not very much well known, and he is struggling in the political. I think he came on the scene.
No, he joined the FDC a few days to nomination.
A few days to the election. That shows you how disorganized the FDC has become.
The supermarket candidate.
You get. FDC didn't have a candidate in their stronghold.
Yes.
You get. So with all those squabbles, then you do not, and of course NUP did not have a candidate in that election. So you have seen that, in as much as the opposition is trying to espouse that maturity of saying we can come together and discuss as united forces of change, you cannot supersede an NRM which has every mercenary.
But does the opposition actually come together, or does the NUP come to Serere because they don't have a candidate?
They do photo moments. They don't come together.
For me,
was that a unity? Was that really unity? Because 2 days, Bobby Wine spent 1 day in Serere.
Not 1 day, about 30 minutes. The rest on the road.
Trust you me, I know for sure that the chairman of NRM, I mean the chairman of NUP in Serere, who was translating for Bobby Wine on the pulpit, had been with Ali Salaso for more than 2 weeks in that election. And most of the youths of NUP in Serere had been given green light from their headquarters, and they were moving with Ali Salaso for more than a week or so. The Secretary General of NUP had been to Serere multiple times before Bobby Wine went there, because he always goes as the advanced team. But that said and done, Bobby Wine's factor in that election was very insignificant, and not that because he has lost the political magma and stuff like that, because in 1 week he had been to 5 districts, and while he was there, he still pulled crowds to the streets just like he did before 2021, before 2018, when he went to Arua. And for you to rush to rub him off the political scene is just a mistake for us we are making in this studio. Does Serere put an eye-opener to the opposition in terms of united forces of change? Yes, it does. I don't see at any one moment where there is going to be any united forces of change like we saw in say Ginger East by-election, because that's the only time when we saw that FDC, the then People Power, and Mugisha Muntu, before he formed the ANT, and all the other opposition forces came together and they galvanized